Hi, I'm Anthony F. Elmore in downtown Memphis on the mighty Mississippi River, bringing you another hot and fiery Black Memphis history lesson.
In regards to critical race theory, the term Orange Mound came from our African or African American ancestors, or our Native American ancestors who were here before whites came. Please understand that Orange Mound in DNA science proves that the original people in America were black people. When Columbus came to America, he saw black people who looked like the black Dravidian people of southern India, and he called the people Indians. Now, evidence shows that far back as the Koshin, as well as the Anu, we black people have DNA evidence to bring in that being in America, that there's evidence of Mali or the royal Mali mound builders in America. And our name comes from the original mound builders. These were black Native Americans all over America before any white people came to America. Our black American ancestors, or our black American history, teaches us that we black people lived from the Carolinas all the way down to Florida, west into Tennessee, and that there were many black Native Americans whose names included the Yuchi, Yamaqua, Atiquami, the Creek, the Tuscarora, and the Yamasee, to name a few. You see, black Native Americans, we had names in America before white people brought many of our relatives to America via the Atlantic slave trade. However, before there was even an Atlantic slave trade, we had Africans or black people already in America. Now, what you have to do is look at the artist-drawn pictures. You can look at the pictures that, or the story that was told by Hernando de Soto. You can look at the black pictures of our black relatives, and you will see that America, or the Native Americans, or we black people, were already here prior to the Atlantic slave trade. Now, white supremacy and racism gives us a false view of Native Americans. You see, we are not all Africans. Now, while many of us call ourselves African American, many of us are actually Native Americans. Let's understand the racism regarding our Native American heritage. You see, there are 5 Native American groups who call themselves the civilized tribes. Most lived in this area. They are called the Cherokee, the Choctaw, the Chickasaw, the Creek, and the Seminole tribes. Now, the Native Americans would have won the war if it was not for the civilized tribes, or those who we call the Cherokee Indians. See, the Cherokee white men married Cherokee women, and they call themselves the civilized tribes, and they adopted racism and they adopted white supremacy. What is the takeaway here? The takeaway here is, because we have the name Orange Mound, we can identify with our pride and our Native American heritage and not identify with the so-called 5 civilized tribes who practice white supremacy, racism, and who also held our ancestors in slavery just as the whites. And they are the ones who sided with the Confederates are enough to let me know that I do not side with them. White racism used Hollywood and the image of the Red Indian to rob us out of our Native American heritage. We are Orange Mound, the land of not only the black and proud African Americans. Orange Mound is also the land of us proud black Native Americans. Now, in this lecture, I explain why I love Orange Mound so deeply. In Orange Mound, I'm able to identify with a 21st century history and culture called Afro-Indigenous. And Orange Mound provides me the opportunity to celebrate my Afro-Indigenous culture. What is the meaning of Afro-Indigenous? You see, Afro-Indigenous is a term that refers to people who have both indigenous and African lineage. There's a story that came out for Black History Month 2021 called Black History Month and the Contributions of Afro-Indigenous Americans. The story reads, quote, February is Black History Month, a time to reflect on the beauty of African cultures and the contributions of African Americans to the U.S., previously known as Negro History Week. The celebration has grown to encompass a broader black history. Within that lies a group of individuals whose history bridges two cultures, the Afro-Indigenous people of America, unquote. You see, John George Dietrich purchased 5,000 acres of land between 1825 and 1830 for his plantation in the place that they call Orange Mound. You see, clearly John Dietrich brought to his plantation Africans or Americans of African descent called coloreds, Negroes, black, and now African Americans. We also know that in 1830, Tennessee racist President Andrew Jackson and his Democratic buddies implemented the Indian Removal Act. And this led to what happened on May 20th of 1830. It's called the Trail of Tears. Now, before there was ever a white man or any man of African descent associated with the Atlantic slave trade, there were people right here in Orange Mound known as Afro-Indigenous People of America. There is an organization called the NACP, or the Native Arts and Culture Foundation. They presented a seminar called the Black Indigenous, Afro-Indigenous Experience. What is most important lesson that I, Anthony Elmore, who is a black activist, a filmmaker, and a historian, can share about Orange Mound? You see, what I share and what you learn from Anthony Elmore is the fact that we share an Afro Afro-Indigenous Legacy.
I'm Anthony F. Elmore in downtown Memphis on the mighty Mississippi River, bringing you another hot and fiery Black Memphis history lesson.